Hi everyone, welcome to the Dee-Brief with Dr. Dee. Real talk, real strategy, real leadership, one insight at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Dee, and this is your space for bold conversations, soul-deep reflections, and truth that transforms. Whether you're an executive, an entrepreneur, or an everyday change agent, this podcast is for you, navigating both public success and that private struggle. Each episode, we take a deep dive into emotional wellness, grief recovery, faith, leadership, and the tools you need to rise with clarity and with purpose. This isn't just strategy, it's healing. It's a calling. This is the Dee-Brief with Dr. Dee. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to the Dee-Brief with Dr. Dee. I am Dr. Dee, and I am so excited to have with us our special guest for today's conversation, Jenny Beckford. She is the owner, founder of Greater Elevation, an all-around bridge builder, parent, advocate, and we're going to have such an amazing conversation today. So I'm going to allow Jenny to introduce herself. Jenny, how are you? Welcome.
I'm fine. Thank you so much, Dr. D, for having me on your podcast today. I'm happy to be here. So thank you. I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's great to see you again. I know you participated in our panel discussion a few weeks ago about the connection between wellness, restoration, and our faith. So thank you for doing it. That was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
So if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and talk to us about Greater Elevation.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. So I'm Jenny Beckford. I'm based in the UK, London, UK. So I am a parent and certified teen coach. I'm the founder of coaching and personal development business, Greater Elevation. So I'm a certified teen coach practitioner, certified in NLP, and I also have a Master's of Science in Coaching Psychology. And I'm the mum of twin adult daughters who are now 28. If they listen to this, because they say to me, Mum, you better never forget that you are a mum too. They always say that to me. So that's me. I mean, I call myself the bridge builder because I'm here to help families to really just break those generational cycles, come together and connect, communicate effectively. And so I bring, as well as qualifications, I bring life experience as well in terms of being a mum of twin daughters and having experienced a time when I couldn't connect with them or communicate with them effectively, really just me being open and transparent. And this is how I've come about being on this journey that I'm actually here supporting the families and the community, and really want to be that one that's breaking the cycles and helping the parents, and not saying that you're a bad parent and you don't know how to parent, because truly I have been in a point in my time where I just didn't have it all together as being that parent and really being able to connect with my daughter. So yeah, I'm all about helping families to just connect more. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you call yourself the bridge builder. And when you think about bridge building, you don't necessarily connect it to parents and children or parents and youth, but you did that because there was a time when you weren't really connected to your children. So you developed that, and you're taking your testimony, your journey with your children, and now you're helping other people. So take us back. How was the relationship with your children? And then what did you do to strengthen that relationship?
Okay, so I was in a space. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Dad, I hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry. So I was in a space where I was going to work and supporting young people, because I've been supporting young people for well over 20 years. So really getting great outcomes for young people. But when returning home to my household, really it just was, I don't know how I would describe it, a bit of an emotional roller coaster. My daughters, I became a solo parent when my daughters were aged 6. So I believe as they started to grow up and go into the teenager years, I became a person who would be overcompensating, not setting boundaries, whatever they wanted. I felt that I needed to give them in terms of, oh, I'm a single parent now and I want to give them the best. But what happened for me to get to this pivotal moment is that me and my daughters, we couldn't connect. And a lot of it is that we just kept clashing all the time. So I'd go to work and had this mask on that everything was okay. And when I returned home, it was a case of we have a conversation and then the conversation goes left. And it just really, really was a point of emotional turmoil. So that made me say to myself that I can't actually go on like this anymore. And I remember I'm a woman of faith, so I was going to church at the time, and I was in the church for quite some time, and I left the church, and I went for a point where I was just so stressed out and just emotional and trying to get advice from family. Family would say, oh, they should listen to you. You're the mom, all that kind of advice. So I remember going to a new church. The church had been around my area for a number of years, and I walked past it every day, not knowing that it was a church because it wasn't in a typical church building; it was in a hall. And I went to visit there one day, and I liked this church. It was a small church, very like family orientated. And I went once, and then I didn't come back, not for any reason. I just I like to have a line on Sunday. That was my excuse in terms of how I stopped even going to my other church. And then it came to a point when me and my daughters were back and forth, back and forth. And I remember going back to that church, and I remember they had I had a dream, and I know it was a vision that I was in the church and they were praying for me. And I was having problems at work at the time in terms of a manager that was having a bit of problems with, but I think it's stemming to how I was showing up at home. And I came back, and the pastor said, we knew you'd be back, and now you're back, your life will never be the same. So I began to roll my eyes and think, here we go. Everybody says that. But then when they had their New Year's Eve watch service, they have like a New Year's Eve, they had this theme that they do unknown to me every 1st of January. And they said, as the clock is going to midnight, we are now having our theme, which is going to be called Greater Elevation. And then I heard a voice say, that's going to be your business. So I now know that that was the voice of God, the Holy Spirit telling me that's going to be my business. But I had no idea of having a business, that never stemmed to me. But I went home, wrote down the name, and then I said, well, God, now that I've come back to you, I need help in sorting out every area of my life, because in terms of me and my daughters, it was getting too much. And I stumbled on a life coach online, and I started to work with her, and she got me to point the finger within. And when I began to look at myself and I began to do the inner work, really look at myself, how I've been being, the relationship with me and my daughters began to strengthen, and we became closer, and we've been able to come to be able to connect more. So that is how Greater Elevation got birthed. The coach was like, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? And I started to support teens, but then thought, what about the parents? I put the two together, became a certified teen coach, and then started to support the parents. And that's where I am today.
Wow, that's an amazing testimony. Thank you for your transparency and sharing that, because a lot of people don't do that. And, I think that's something that's so important. You don't know how many people are having the same issues or challenges with their children, and they don't know where to turn, and then they're hiding from it. So you sharing your testimony openly is really helping so many people today. So thank you. So with that, what it's great that you found a life coach, right? So I'm a life coach. You're basically a life coach helping people, and so it's so important to have someone else, I think, speak into your life and to help you, because we can't always see, what is happening internally. That's why the coach needs a coach. Like, it's always important, whether it's an accountability partner, a sounding board, a coach, you need that type of person in your life. So what are some of the techniques after working with the life coach and helping you to look within? What did you do differently with your children to help the relationship mend some tangible things?
So with my daughters, when I was on this journey, the first thing I did was ask them to describe me in 3 words or 3 sentences. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I asked each one of them individually because they're twins, and they both said the same thing, separate times. They didn't call each other. But I remember they said, one, you're funny. And I thought, oh, great. Somebody likes my jokes.
Good.
Yes, I'm like, cool, we're going. They were like, wait, wait, wait. And then number two, you talk a lot, you yell a lot. And number three, you don't listen to a word that we say. Now, of course, I'm hung up on the first one, right?
Right.
And it says, see, you're not even listening. You're just thinking about being funny. What about the other two? So that gave me something to go and work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then a technique was looking at my self-awareness, really looking at myself in terms of looking within. Uh, how am I communicating? Am I practicing active listening? Really starting to reset my mind in the way that I've been showing up, because at first I was saying, I'm not a good parent, just really speaking negatively. So it was really just reaffirming my words, but reaffirming my words and speaking life over myself, speaking life over current situations, speaking over my children, really reaffirming. There was a lot of work because I'd always like to say that I was a positive person, but really I wasn't. I was stressed out, um, looking at being that single mom, juggling so many things. So really the self-awareness, reaffirming, practice active listening, being able to take that feedback, and really just turning that around and really reflecting and checking in with myself, but
Right.
also checking in with my children as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's key. And that was really brave of you because when you're not having a good relationship with your children and then you're asking them to tell me 3 things about myself, it could be like, oh my God, I don't want to hear what they're going to say. So that was really brave of you to do that and to be open to hear from them, which was one of the 3 things that you don't hear anything they're saying, but you actually did do that in this exercise. So that's really great. Um, I know you wanted to talk about, you also had a healing journey that you went on, a physical healing journey. Talk to us about that if you don't mind sharing. And then how was that part of your bridge building journey with your children?
Okay, so um, quite a few years ago, I think going back to 2008, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that condition, it affects the joints. You're quite swollen, and at first, the doctors thought that I had lupus, and this was something that I kept going back and forth within the hospital. And there'd just be times where I'd be really fatigued, my joints would be swollen, be in a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And, my daughters had always been around me and seen me not being physically well. And this was going on for quite some years. And even when I decided that I was starting to work on myself, because this is what happens with this autoimmune disease. Sometimes it will flare up, sometimes it will go, and it was just a really coming backwards and forwards. Um, and it brought me to a point where it was getting really a lot for me in terms of living day to day. And I
Right.
would always try to wear that mask that everything was okay. And then a few years ago, I had to go to hospital because they found there was a problem with my stomach and they thought I had a tumor and, connected with the autoimmune disease. And it went to that point where I really had to lean on my faith.
Right.
And I just remember just saying a scripture, by your stripes you are healed, by your stripes you are healed, and just using that as an affirmation. And over the years, my health hasn't been the best. However, I was really wanting to overcome. But when I was doing further research, Dr. D, I noticed that it said that having an autoimmune disease has a lot to do with your emotions as well. So it
Mm-hmm.
took me back to thinking about everything over the years that happened. When I had split from their father, there was a lot of emotional turmoil. Then I became a solo parent, a lot of emotional turmoil then. And I really matched everything together and know that sometimes when I was probably going through a period of stress and worry, really, really got me overwhelmed. But I was a determined person, I still am, that I'm not going to let those diseases define me. And it's, to be honest, it's not really something that I tend to talk about. So I'm happy to disclose that today. And now for me, I'm a year in, I'm able to go to the gym. You know, there's things like I couldn't even lift weights, very weak. Oh, it was just so terrible. And my poor daughters, I call them poor, I shouldn't say that. My daughters were always having to see me go in and out of hospital. But I said, look, if I'm having to show up for these families, I got to do something. I got to take my own health in my own hands. So, you know, I started to look at eating differently, just looking at a lot of things in terms of alternative things that I could eat, you know, herbs, a lot of things. And as I said, I'm a year in, just going to the gym consistently. I'm feeling better than I have. Recently turned 50 a couple of months ago, and yeah, I'm feeling good. But as I said, that those are more autoimmune diseases. Definitely, when you do your research, a lot of it is linked to your emotions. So I make sure that now my practice is that I journal a lot to release my emotions and just really doing as best as I can to keep on top of my health.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. I mentioned it when I saw it in your write up because there are people out there who may not only be going through a challenge with their children, but that causes other concerns, right? Because our emotions, like stress, can kill us, and our emotions are tied to all the things that are happening to us internally. So if someone is going through a challenge with their children, but they're also going through a physical challenge, you just show them that they're not alone, that you overcame it, you're doing much better, you took care of yourself, and your children were able to help you. I'm glad you changed it from your poor daughters because they wanted to help you and they wanted to be there for you. And that also helped build a bridge. I always like to say, God doesn't waste our pain. So, that was something that was able to bring you all closer together. And look at you now. You're thriving, they're thriving, and you've built your own bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
awesome, awesome. So talk to us about the people that you help, your client base. How do you get clients, and what are some of the things that have been successful in helping your clients to build their own bridges?
Okay, so I help parents that have teenagers, and I also help teenagers from the ages of 13. When I say teenagers, it's teenagers and youth. It's the ages of 13 to 25, so young adults. And when I started, I think it's 5 years ago in COVID, we were all inside, right? We were doing virtual, everything was virtual.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I started just going online, putting myself out there, doing content.
Mhm.
And sure enough, people started to come to me that they wanted to be coached. Was coaching young people that were in Jamaica online. Had people on Facebook. Could we have your services? And when I first started, I had not a clue of how to package everything together. So I had like a business mentor that was helping me to guide me. And over the years, I built a Facebook community. I've got a Facebook community of parents. There's about 812 or something like that now, we're up to. And in that free Facebook community, the parents can tap into tools. They have me that shows up in the group, really helping them in terms of with their, not just their parenting, but their personal growth as well. Because it's not just about them being a parent, but it's
Right.
looking at them with their identity and their personal growth. So I'm able to support parents and also the teenagers. And that's been predominantly online, but also offline. I go into schools, deliver workshops,
Mhm.
and I'm recently putting together a wellbeing initiative for organisations as well to help working parents of teenagers as well, because I think it's very important to have that niche because I've been in that shoes. Having a baby and having a teenager is two completely different sides of parenting. So some of the success stories, recently coached a 14-year-old teenager girl, spoken to their mum. So how it goes with the teenagers is we speak to the parents, if they're I speak to parents if they're underage, and then we have what we call a 1 hour teen and meet greet online. I meet with the team because it's very important. I say to the parents, we don't just go straight into the program because your child may not connect with me. It's just a part of life, and it's absolutely fine. They might not like me, they might not think I'm a good fit, but I equally may think that they're not ready. So we have like a 1 hour session, and we build rapport. I speak to them, find out what's going on, and then we take it from there. So for me, it's a bit of an initial assessment, and if all goes well, speak back to the parent, get that feedback, and then we have the session. So this particular young person who I'd worked with on a one-to-one for 3 months virtually, her mum wasn't able to connect with her. She felt quite distant with her mum. She was lacking confidence at school. Aspirations were quite low as well. So I worked with her in order for us to look at these 3 goals. And we take the goals usually 1 month at a time if it's 3 months, and we really do the work. Now, with this young person, the main challenge I would say is that mum and dad were separated, and the daughter lived with the father, but would go and see mum, but wouldn't want to stay with mum at the weekends. She would come and stay and not stay overnight. So mum was quite frustrated. And the daughter, she said, she just said she didn't really want to stay at her mum's because she didn't like the area. But when we started to do the work, it was much more than that. And by the time we had gone through the sessions, I'd given her things that she needed to do in terms of, exercises. She had access to me out of the coaching session via Telegram app. So, she'd be able to contact me. And now I'm pleased to say I've spoken to herself and her mum, and now she's regularly connecting with her mum. She stays at weekends with her mum. Her mum is really happy because that was the main thing. And it was funny because I was speaking to her mum and I said, Mum, I can't fix your daughter, but I can work with her. So just give me some time to work with her. And also speaking to the mum about working on herself as well. And at that time, she wasn't really ready to do that work, and it was fine. But she was happy for me to work with her daughter. And she said, she's happy doing what she wants to do now. That was a mother. And that's fine because I can't force anybody to want to do the work. But I'm pleased to say, even speaking to the young person we checked in last week, and that connection with that parent has now been solidified in terms of them coming together. So that's just one of the stories. Equally to that, I also do parent programs, and have been recently going into schools where we do parent programs and really just working with the parents to work on their personal growth as well. So it really does light up my heart when we hear that, the connection in a family has now been restored. So that's just one of the recent testimonials that we've had. Yeah.
Awesome. And that's amazing. I love the fact that you work with not just the parents, but you work with the student, the child as well, because if you're just like, if it's like one person going to counseling and the other person not going to counseling, it's hard to implement what you are learning because you're both not on the same page. So that methodology that you have is really amazing. So, the work that you're doing, working with parents and children, I think is awesome. And I love the fact that it's relatable to you. And I know that must make a difference. How do the parents feel and the children feel when you share your story? Because it's one thing to just coach someone and train them, but it's another thing to have that lived experience. How do they feel when you talk to them about that?
Okay, so with the parents, I think initially, how I go in with this, I say to the parents, I'm not here to tell you that you're doing a bad job. You're not a bad parent, because sometimes it can be that they see you as the expert. So now there's somebody coming in to tell us what we're not doing, what we should be doing. So when I speak to the parents about my story, about sometimes just having disagreements with my daughters and just storming out of the house and just going for a long walk, they look at me in disbelief, like, wow. I said, yeah, honestly, it's nothing new to me under the sun, right? So I say to the parents that I'm here to help them to unlearn the old thought patterns, because I had a lot of these, I call it the old school parenting that I adapted from my mother, because my mum's from Jamaica, and it was a case of children should be seen and not heard. So I take that with the parents, and I explain to them about my background, where I'm coming from, and they're quite welcoming. Equally with the young people as well, they're quite receptive to me, because I say to them, I was a teenager once, I know, but you don't want to hear that, and they laugh that off. But when I say to them that I have twin daughters and that they were teens, and they look at me like, wow, and it opens them up more, because now they're more receptive to me, that it's not somebody just coming in as an authority figure telling them what to do, what not to do. It's somebody that has perhaps been in their shoes, where maybe they're not able to communicate with their parents. So I'm able to give them that side of the story and able to help them to be able to get to where they need to be. So yeah, everybody's really welcoming once you tell your story, Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. So your program, your coaching business is really, really needed. I know you're in the UK, but you do work virtually because COVID has just changed the game, so we can work virtually. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to touch base with you to maybe work with you?
Okay, so if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook, firstly, under Jenny Beckford. The Facebook group is called Elevating Parents to Elevate Teens. If you tap that in, you will find me there also. I'm also on Instagram under Jenny Beckford1, and also Greater Elevation. And lastly, I'm on LinkedIn under Jenny Beckford. And I've just gone on to TikTok as well. Like, I'm just going back onto TikTok under Jenny Beckford, because I've been told that I need to go over there as well. So there are all the places, the platforms you can find me. You can just send me a quick DM, and I'm happy to chat with you. But if you click on my platform, you'll see there's a link tree. You can even book a complimentary consultation. This is for parents. I give a complimentary 30 minutes consultation, and you can just have a chat with me, and then I can let you know in terms of what would be the next steps, if you'd like to work with me as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for talking to us. Thank you for sharing your testimony and being so transparent, and also the work that you're doing with parents and children. I think it's really, really important. Any last words? What would you like to say to our audience before we end?
Okay, I want to say to the audience that are listening, and particularly to the parents that may feel like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing my hair out, or I just can't do this anymore. What I want to say to you is, don't give up.
Mhm.
Yeah. And intervention is self-care. If you know that you are not able to connect with your child for whatever reason, it doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes you just need some intervention, and the first steps to really looking at your self-care is getting the intervention. That's something that I want to say, because there's a lot of parents out there that have a lot of guilt, that have a lot of shame. I was like that. I felt so ashamed. Do I tell people that it's chaos here, or do I just go to work and wear this mask and pretend everything is okay? And also, I want to say to you as well, because a lot of it is our past, our childhood, and the way that we've grown up. Do not let your past define the future. It's not too late for you to be the one that says, right, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get this help, and I'm going to start to break that cycle. So that's what I want to just give to the families out there.
That's so important, and people will know from listening to you that they are not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jenny. It was great talking to you. Everyone, you just heard from Jenny Beckford from Greater Elevation and her coaching business. You have the information to reach out to her. So this has been just another amazing episode of the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye, Jenny.
Bye. Thank you, Dr. D.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me today on the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. If this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs a word of hope and clarity. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with our social media community. And remember, healing is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to lead on empty. You don't have to rise alone. You were built to lead, to heal, and to thrive from the inside out. Until next time, lead well, heal deep, and walk boldly. This is Dr. Dee signing off.